So I could easily see myself falling in love with this cooker for cooks on just about any day of the week. Hey everybody, welcome back to Everyday Barbecue. My name is Mike, and today I'm going to be doing a review on the SNS Grills Kettle. If this is your first time here, please consider subscribing to the channel by clicking that button and clicking the bell to get notifications anytime I release new content. I put out cooking videos, mostly barbecue outdoor stuff, but I also have indoor cooks, stuff I do in the oven, slow cooker, things we do on the stove, all different kinds of outdoor cookers, including flat top griddles, gas grill, charcoal kettle, this kettle. I've got a Lone Star offset, I've got pellet grills. So there's a lot of content here that you might find useful. So specifically review videos, one thing I'd like to say is that I have a lot of companies send things out to the channel, and most of that stuff doesn't make camera because it's either not up to standards for me, for what I would like, or I don't think it's a good value, or I just flat out didn't like the product for one reason or another. All the other reviews that you see, this one included, these are products that I've already tested. And that means that they've passed the sniff test and they're good products and they're something that I want to share with you. So you might consider that a spoiler alert, and that's fine, but there's still a lot of information to be gained by watching this entire video. So I hope you'll hang out with me. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to break down all the features of this kettle, and then I'm going to give you some feedback on some of the experiences that I've had. And I hope you find it helpful. Let's get into it. So we have the 22-inch easy spin grate here. I did clean this off today, and I do have some clean footage that I'll overlay here, but I've used this thing 3-4 times already, so I did give it a good cleaning before this video so that it would look presentable. The spin grate became popular with the cold grate technique for steaks, which I've done a video on. I've got a couple videos on my channel. I'll put a link to one of them up in the iCard. Unbelievable what you can do with a steak with this spin grate, and it is made of 304 stainless steel. Now this hinged area here just allows you to add more coals to the slow and sear during a cook. If you notice, it does not allow you to accidentally dump charcoal into the water reservoir, so you can literally open this during a cook and refill charcoal if you need to. Some of the older grates had the hinges open, and this would actually be able to be removed. It was more of a pain in the butt than anything, apparently, because they did go ahead and go to the closed hinges. Let me remove this. Now this insert accessory here, this is the Slow and Sear. This is where SNS Grills started, was making this particular accessory. What this does is it allows for indirect cooking and direct searing. This water reservoir is removable in this particular model of the Slow and Sear. The water reservoir is there so that you can add moisture to your cook on those low and slow cooks. I use it on low and slows. I don't use it on hot and fast cooks because you don't want crazy boiling water in there when you're cooking at higher temperatures. This is a side shelf here. This does hold up to 20 pounds. I recently did a prime rib cook for SNS for their channel that if it's not out by the time this video comes out, it'll be out shortly, and if so, I'll put a link to it up in the iCard, but there will be a link down in the description. And I had no problem holding on to a good 8 or 9 pound prime rib here. Also used it many times already for the few cooks that I've done to put trays to bring food in and out. It's been very, very sturdy, and it served its purpose. No complaints. We've also got the lid cradle here on the side, which is super convenient. I've actually never had a lid cradle on any of my kettles, so this is the first one, and I love it. I really don't know how I ever did without it. I usually would take the lid off and set it on the floor or try to lean it up against something, and typically that just makes a mess. This has been absolutely awesome. On, off. And you don't have to worry about any messes. Very, very convenient. This here is your lower vent control. This stands for open here, the O. The X's on both sides stand for close, so as you move it left to right, the vent will open and close. And what I like about that is you can kind of gauge where you are on your lower vent in terms of if it's halfway open or a quarter open. Now this also helps with the ash clean out. As you move this back and forth, it will push the ash down into the hole. It'll collect down here into this collection bucket, and then you can empty it. Very, very simple. Now down here towards the bottom of the kettle, we have what we call the smoke hole. This can be a lower vent on its own for low and slow cooks if you want to leave the main vent closed and you just want to go adjusting here with this. This way you can see exactly how much it's open, if you're at 50%, if you're at 25%. So it's a really good way to fine-tune your temperature on those low and slows. This is also a port that can be used for an automatic temperature control system. Up towards the top by the lid we have the probe port. This is ultra convenient because if you've ever had a different kettle, you know that you have to feed the probe either through the lid or up on top through the vent, and that makes for real headaches every time you have to open and close. Also can create smoke leaks. This is put in an absolute optimal spot, so having that probe port here makes things really, really easy for monitoring temperatures without having to mess around with cords. You run it through one time, you're set for the whole cook. I want to remove these things so I can show you the charcoal grate. So this here is your charcoal grate. What I love about this is it's a little bit larger than in a traditional kettle. It gives you the opportunity to have a larger and a hotter fire if you want to use this in a standard mode. I pretty much always use mine with the Slow and Sear, so it's not a big deal for me. This is also porcelain coated, so it's made to last a long, long time. This accessory here is the drip and griddle. I always cover mine in foil, and I did put the roasting rack in it just to demonstrate something. So this serves in a couple different ways. First of all, you can set it down here. Now when you're cooking, anything on the indirect side, all the drippings will fall down into that drip and griddle and be caught with the foil. This makes for a very easy cleanup, and it'll keep your grill lasting a long, long time. I've pretty much had a drip and griddle ever since I started using the Slow and Sear, so I definitely highly recommend it as an accessory if you go ahead and purchase this kettle. Now let me show you another use for it. You can actually use this as a roasting pan, and you can do it down here on this charcoal grate level to get lower temperatures for a slower roast, or you can place it on top of the main grate to roast at higher temperatures. Now last but not least, so it's called the drip and griddle because it can actually be used as a griddle, and I've done that before. I've created content for the SNS Grills channel. I did a really nice breakfast burger on here, and it turned out outstanding. So there's no doubt that this can serve as a really good flat top cooker if you want to use it that way. Now there's some additional things that I want to point out here with the lid on. This is your top vent adjustment here. It does have the cool touch handle, very easy adjustment. The handle's extremely comfortable when taking it off or putting it back on. And I love the fact that the temperature gauge is on the same side as the vent, because this gives you a much truer reading when you're using the Slow and Sear in terms of what your cook temperatures are in there. If you don't feel like using a probe, this gives you really, really accurate temperatures, and it's coming from the same side that the food is on, which is the indirect side versus the direct side. To me, that's an extremely useful and beneficial feature, and I'm glad SNS Grills thought of that. There are tool holders here on the handle in the front. The front of the kettle has two legs with a really nice shelf here for storage. Having two legs makes it much more stable. And these wheels are plenty sturdy. I have to roll this thing around my patio every single time I use it. Haven't had any trouble, and they seem to be overdone if anything. So they're good quality wheels. Underneath the lid, SNS Grills does send you a gasket that you can attach to this lid, and I did opt to put it on. Some people may not, I did. What I will tell you is that having that gasket on this lid, I have absolutely zero smoke leaks. When I'm cooking on here, the only place smoke is escaping is through this top vent. So I know it's holding everything in, and that's a lot different than other kettles that I've used. I've seen people do things like put paper clips on the outside of the lids of other kettles to keep the smoke in. This does a great job on its own. No tweaks, no mods necessary. Smoke stays in the cooker. Now at the time of shooting this video, I've done 3, maybe 4 cooks on here. I did a prime rib for the SNS Grills channel. Like I said earlier, I'll link you down in the description to that. If it's not out already, you'll be able to watch it down there. I've also done a couple cooks here just for my family. I did some, what I'm going to be calling headlamp chicken and headlamp burgers, because it was dark out by the time I got out here. But anyway, did some marinated chicken, reverse seared that. Also did some reverse seared burgers that I made. That was just last night. Put a little cherry wood in with those. and it was just incredible. I mean, my family actually said those are some of the best burgers we've had in a while, and I have a feeling I know why. One thing I noticed when I was using this the first time, the second time, is it appears to be a really moist cooking environment, and it's hard to explain why, because I know typically it's only Kamado style cookers that have that additional moisture, but I did notice moisture gathering on top of the lid during cooks, and you can tell in the result of the food. The food comes out juicy, delicious, retains a lot of moisture, and I wouldn't be telling you that if it wasn't true. So take that for what it's worth. Now listen, I don't know how long this video is going to end up being. I've got a lot of footage. I'm just happy that you stayed here with me. I hope you got really good information. If you have any questions or comments, post them down here in the comment section. Give me some feedback. Did I miss anything? Is there anything else you'd like to know that I didn't cover? I made a pretty lengthy list and I tried to cover everything, but if I missed anything, I'll be happy to answer those questions for you. So thank you very much for your support. Please check out everydaybarbecue.net, my new website. You can register for the mail list. You can support the channel lots of different ways by going there. Take care. Till next time, I'll see you on the next episode.